Okay, this is going to be a kind of a quick answer, I think, a 30-second. Two quick questions. They're very specific. You just told us about essential services and funding them, but then there are two questions about some specific costs. One, do you support the start of the tree, I don't know why it's the start of the tree trimming program? Does that make
Couldn't hear you.
Do you support the tree trimming program? Does that make sense to either of you? Any of you?
Yeah, it does.
All right. Do you support the tree trimming program and the costs apparently involved with that? And when will the sidewalk repair program be fully funded to the neighborhoods?
Again, because it's vital to the quality of life, I would support the tree trimming program. And again, sidewalks are a vital part of making sure that people are safe. We need to create more walkability in this city, and that's vital to the quality of life.
You know, a lot of the cutting that's been going on is because we have budget shortfalls, because our income is limited, and that's what's defining our priorities. And it's real hard to look at anything and say that this is essential when there's not enough money for other things that are. And we as a people have to start talking about, we need to put up more. We have to be more involved. We have to take more responsibility for it. We have to rise up as a people and not leave it to the city council. We have to ourselves come in and find out what to do, because we need to do more. We need to have more as a city. We need to have more people caring.
Thank you.
The elimination of the tree trimming program and sidewalks are symptoms of the budget crisis in San Jose. But we could have had a tree trimming program if we simply allowed it to be outsourced, because I would have then been able to provide you tree trimming services at a lower cost. But because the council at that time didn't want that, you get nothing. That's the seriousness of the decisions we have to make. We have choices, ladies and gentlemen, and those choices can be for you to receive services, but maybe just not the same way, but you'll still get them.
Okay. What is the best, I think this will be a minute. What is the best means to collect and utilize public input on city development?
The best method is to ask the people and to get them to respond. Now that we have the internet, almost anybody can answer questions and give suggestions. And I think we ought to start reaching out more for the people. Most city council meetings are pretty much closed things, where the council has all the decisions, they make all the decisions, and the information is all dealt with within themselves. And I believe that the community ought to take more interest in it and provide more intellectual capital to what's going on. And that way we would have solutions to the problems. But right now we can't afford to pay people to think.
This is part of a process which we have in District 6, some of the best neighborhood associations. We have some of the most vibrant neighborhood associations in the city. We have some of the greatest activists here. And what we need to do is have that power that they have achieved through their experience to create an ongoing session of ways to get people into City Hall. In other words, it's just not enough for a city council member to sit back on the 18th floor and listen every once in a while and come to a meeting and vote. You have to be on the street. You have to be there. You have to find out what the problems are, and you have to empower people. And that's how you get them involved. And you have to make them, win or lose, understand that they are part of the system if they get involved. And you know what? It's contagious. It works. It works, and it can even make our city even better than it is now.
Thank you, Steve.
I really believe the most important thing you can do when it comes to planning and land use on the garnering input is actually working with the affected property owners, the adjacent landowners, and then extending out. It's really important to have their buy-in. Oftentimes at these types of decisions, we have people commenting that live 2 miles away. And that's fine and dandy, but it's not as relevant to the neighbor that lives adjacent to the property, and that's what you're putting for. So I always make it my point to talk to adjacent property owners because those are the ones that are most affected. And I think that's the important part of the process that we must continue to do. And we do have that process. One thing I might like to see, though, is as we mail notices to adjacent property owners, that some of those, some type of sampling be registered mail. Because sometimes there's this, oh, I didn't get it. But I want to make sure people get it. And we have different ways of reaching people. And certainly Bill Chu brought that up very well. The ability to send email, the ability to see things in diagrams on the web is much better than it was 20 years ago. And I think that's inherently better for all of us.
Thank you. I think we're down to the last question. I'm going to go with sort of a general question. What are your strengths, and how would you use those to solve city problems? I'm sorry.
1 minute. My strengths are is I've been on the job. I've managed 8,100 constituent issues in a database, and 2,500 of you have logged in and tracked your issue online. Everyone said, oh, you can't do it. It worked, and it works well. And then I can aggregately see what the major issues are versus, hey, this is a big issue. Actually, this is, because that's what everyone's calling you about. Those are important things to manage. So I think in that regard, I think that's an important thing to do. Yeah, and my final thing on strengths, it's my ability to make a decision. The fact is that I make decisions for the best long-term decision, even if it threatens me politically. Because that's when I live in this city. I'm going to reside in this city. I have the roots here. And if you don't make those tough decisions, you just pass on the problem to the future. And so again, I have a track record of making tough decisions. And I could give you numerous examples, but I'm out of time.
Thank you.
One of the tough decisions he made was to give Deb Fagoni 892 sick hours when she returned to the city of San Jose. What I can do, and my strength, is collaboration, advocacy and collaboration. I know the difference between advocacy and consensus building. You need to advocate, you need to set out positions, you need to talk to people, you need to talk to other council members. 10 to 1, when you're the one, doesn't win you any friends and doesn't get the problems solved. We need to have the power of 6, and you need to work under the Brown Act, working, collaborating, and talking to others, and organizing, and empowering people to support your position. This job is not mine alone. This would be a neighborhood job. This is for you to have someone at the council.
I've spent a lot of time in City Hall. I go to a lot of the meetings. And the thing I notice most of all is how few people actually are there. We have a city of 1 million people, and there's less than 5 people that attend our meetings on an ongoing basis. And that is a tragedy. We have a vacuum of public input, and it's because no one's looking. And we have to change that. You folks have got to come in to City Hall. You've got to find out how it works. You've got to watch the process for a while, because it's an amazing thing. Our city spends $3.5 billion a year. It's not boring. We have 35 meetings average a year, $3.5 billion. That comes out to $100 million per council meeting that our council is consenting to spend. It is a huge operation. It is an awesome amount of money. And it takes a lot of people to look at something, to come up with better and new ways to deal with it. And we need the input from our community. We need for you to come in and be part of it. And the council has let the population not be involved.
Thank you, Bill.
That has to change.
Although, well, you may as well hold on to the microphone, because we've come to the end of the questions. We will allow each candidate 1 minute to make a closing comment. And actually, Bill, we'll start with you, Steve, and then Pierluigi.
You know, I appreciate you folks coming out here so much. This is more folks than I've seen at a public function in a long time, and for it to be my own neighbors is really a great thing. I don't know if you recognize me or not, but I'm the guy who roller skates around town, you know, and I do it because it's part of a fit piece program that I'm involved in, and I would like to have our city go from being the way it is now to being a fit city. to having our residents be more and more healthy and living in a more and more healthy environment. And we need for all of us to get together to do that. I invite all of you to start coming into City Hall, and I promise that the first order of business of my job as a council member is I am there to be the doorman. I'm there to hold the door for the residents to come into City Hall. And when the meeting starts, I drop the door and run down to the seat in the council chambers and ask the 6 difficult questions of every issue on the budget, on every issue on the agenda, so that what we're doing at City Hall is being talked about out loud, and so everyone knows what's going on.
I want to thank you all. I want to thank the league, and I want to thank Mr. Chu and Mr. Oliverio for being here tonight. I think this has been very good for people to hear the issues. District 6 is a great place to live. San Jose is a great place to live. And my intention and my reason for running is to make it even better. My intention is to make sure that the neighborhoods and the people that have for long not been heard at City Hall, who have been ignored by the special interests, both labor and the chamber, to bring a new paradigm to the city, and that is the neighborhoods, so that we can be heard all the time as to what our interests are and how the city is really affecting us day to day. I would be honored to have your vote. I would be honored to sit on the council and open my mind and open my heart to listen to all of you day in and day out. Thank you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to serve. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of work, and I'd say I've grayed my hair, but it's worth it. And I'll leave you with a story. When I was recently on the council, the city department came up and said, hey, we're going to spend $1.6 million on software. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's odd. So I said on the dais and said, why don't we go back? Why don't we do it differently? And the council voted with me, and they did. And then they came back. And instead of spending $1.6 million, we spent $117,000. We avoided $1.5 million in cost avoidance because you elected someone that wasn't your standard political type, that came from the private sector, that grew up here as a little boy and has had this beautiful, beautiful life here in San Jose. And I thank you so much for that opportunity. And I will take the last years of knowledge, combine that with everything I am, and I will do my best to make the best decisions for you and the future of this city so we can have a beautiful city that continues. Thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to all three candidates. And just a reminder, our elections are going to be a little bit different in the primaries. Remember, we have a new system called Top Two, or open elections. There's a little bit also in our League of Women Voters materials here about Prop 28 and 29, our two state propositions. That might be helpful to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Just a couple quick housekeeping announcements. There are